Hello and welcome back to the conversation. We've been talking to our panel of hip hop historians and innovators about the musical gift we know and love as hip hop here on its 50th anniversary. We've got Ryan, we've got Tyson, South got something to say. Ernie, South got something to say. Princess, Nuck, If You Buck, Dallas, pretty much every other song out there. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. We do want to touch on the history, right, of the decades. And you talked about, essentially 70s, 80s-ish, right? But I want to hear from you the historic contribution you feel like, Dallas, starting with you, in terms of the influence on other forms of music.
I mean, it's crazy because it's one of those things, being young enough, you heard that hip hop wasn't going to last or rap wasn't going to do it.
Right.
And then if you saw it started in the 80s with Grandmaster Flash, and had on leather pants and leather outfits and was doing funk and all live bands. And then it just started to eat up part of every kind of music it became close to. So, it started moving through funk, and it started moving through jazz, like with Tribe Called Quest and Native Tongues, and then it started to take the African approach and going to like where Arrested Development and then it started getting to the streets where it was like the voice of poetry from the streets. So, and then it started getting rich, where it was like the broke guys talking about what they wish they had.
Right.
So, and then now it's in the country. So it's one of those things.
And across the globe, right?
Country,
every language,
music.
there is some form of hip hop, which I think really speaks to how it is a voice for the voiceless, right?
Yeah, if you think about hip hop and jazz are the only two American inventions in terms of the arts, in terms of music and culture. Jazz came 100 years ago, then hip hop came 50 years ago. So we are in the midst of watching this grow. We're in the midst of watching it become this worldwide revolution. That is, it's been very quick. 50 years is not a long time, but it's become the language in which we speak. It's become how we dress. It's become the politics, government, everything that we touch, sports, right here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks, and, the Chicago Bulls, it's all hip hop. Yeah. So we are in the midst of watching this kind of evolution, and it's, they said it was not going to last. And here it is, 50 years, it's still going on.
Right. Princess, for women, right? As girls, we listened. We didn't always see ourselves, except sometimes as the dancers, and sometimes maybe doing a little something, dropping a few bars here and there. For you, the women that you watched growing up, because I think of Queen Latifah, the women who made a difference in terms of your career.
Well, there is Queen Latifah and MC Lyte but I'm a late 80s, early 90s baby. Right. So for me, it was TLC who gave me permission to have a message in music with Unpretty and Waterfalls, and be okay with being, you can show a little bit up top, but then you're going to have baggy jeans. So the balance of everything, TLC was good at that.
Yeah.
And then the more rugged side, 3-6 Mafia, Lil Chat, Gangsta Boo, rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. She was one of my first go-to people when it came to the energy, the tone, delivery. I mimicked my sound after her. So to see everything come full circle and for her to be like a big sister to me, Rashida, of course, Missy Elliott.
For sure.
It's so many examples of women and how you don't have to be in a box and speak about the same thing. And now it's so open. There's so many different looks and vibes and feels and styles. I never thought I would see the day where women would play back to back on the radio.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I think for me, when you think about the history of hip hop, being a journalist, I loved seeing the evolution of how journalism changed and helped push forward hip hop, and especially
changing the narrative of it too.
Exactly, taking it serious. And it was like, when you think about like Cedric Walker, who's from Atlanta, and he started the first festival, first national hip hop concert in America, and he brought Run DMC and Fat Boys and Curtis Blow and put them throughout the whole country. I loved how people started looking at all the people coming to see these acts, and it was a real thing. And that was the quickest thing about hip hop is the actual influence. Like when somebody sees someone doing anything that has to do with hip hop and the culture, they love it and they gravitate to it. And that's what I love about it.
And then maybe remake it just a little bit, right? And then adapt and adjust.
It's evolution. It's all about evolution because you know, if you see an artist come out, there's so many people that are influenced by that spokesperson. Like, and a lot of times these artists don't realize how much influence they have over cultures. And, we sit back and a lot of times the music, you define who you are sometimes by what type of music you're listening to, so if you, like back in the days, I remember literally, like what shoe brand you wore, right? So it's like what song you like better would determine which type of shoes you wore.
What Run DMC like, did for
it was
Adidas.
Either Adidas or Nike. And to this day, when you see people, how they dress, how they talk, their ability to express themselves, like you said, worldwide, across the world, in all the different, states in America as well. It's like you can see. I just saw something the other day. It was like some hillbillies that were rapping. Yeah. And they're from East Tennessee. And I was like, do your thing, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Do you? Because
they were, they're pickup trucks and crossbows, but they were hip hop. So it's still hip hop.
And it's still, you talk about hillbillies, I mean, everybody, politicians, it becomes a part of platforms. When we talk about what this looks like from hip hop, rap, trap, crunk. I mean, there's no one label even for hip hop.
Yeah, and
I know for Atlanta it keeps moving, just out of Atlanta, but just in general, I think it was one of those things where it's like it finds its way and you have to follow it. If somebody's going to invent it, somebody's going to have the nerve to take it somewhere else. Like I remember when Speech first came out and I first heard Tennessee, I was like, oh my God, this record sounds like nothing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And then that opened the door for a whole nother world of music that was considered hip hop even from Arrested Development.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, when we return, we're going to keep this conversation going. Good stuff. Oh my gosh. Who's wanting to queue up their whole playlist right now? All right, we'll be right back.